Before the presentations, I would like to introduce myself briefly, so explain why I may be useful for these discussions. I have been involved in the IVD industries for maybe more than years. The functions across product management, business development, international registrations, and commercializations. Fortunately, I have the experience in work both multi MNC companies and China local companies. That's why I have experience to know what on the both side what they are thinking, and they are also how to evaluate the business partner. So I also would like to maybe use 5 sentences to give a summarize for current, China IVD business at this moment. China market is still very large, but it's not a easy growth marketings as the previously maybe with more than 10%, which is the old stories. And the China policies compares for both price and unnecessary volumes. That's why all the companies in China face the challenge for their business growth. But the China government is still open for the foreign companies, but they are selective open only for the innovation product rather than for the routine IVD assays anymore. Currently, the new successful in the China's highly depends on the right operations and localization models. And in the last sentence, I would like to advise all the foreign companies protect your core technologies. So there are a lot of news and policies in the China IVD markets for the last a couple of years. And I assume there are so many questions from foreign companies for the current situations in the China. I also would like to use these 5 questions. So first questions, maybe is China still a very attractive markets for our product? The second question is, what is the true registration burdens and whether they have some faster or low-cost pathway to do the registrations? And the third question is localization is just the optional or it will be the essential. The first questions, what is the right China operation models, distributor lead, partnership based or Wu-Fei driven? The last questions of China healthcare policy, whether what kind of effect for our the commercializations in China. Unfortunately, I cannot answer all of these questions directly today, but I will use the marketing observations, some of the public data, policy development, and try to give you more clear pictures about China IVD situation at this moment. In the first part, I also would like to explain what changed in China in the last couple of years. Firstly, I would like to emphasize the truth. China is still very large markets. I would like to use several figures. The first figure is China still have very large the IVD markets with more than 100 billion market size in the 2025. This data is from IVD annual report released by the CAIVD. And the economic situation of China is still keep positive, and the annual GDP for each person is nearly $14,000 in the 2025. And the age population is around 323 millions, occupy around 23% of total populations. And the China government is still pay a lot of attention about basic medical insurance. The coverage is very stable at 95%. According to these data, I can tell you China is also one of the largest IVD market in all of the world, but the market is never getting smaller, it's getting more selective about which kind of growth is reward. Regarding the routine IVD product, they are under 3 different pressures in the past several years. The first one is about price down. Some central procurement organized by the government and some national tenders to make chemical license reagent and clinical chemistry reagents decrease around maybe from 50% to 80%. So this price is from distributor to the hospital. At the same time, the price from manufacturer to the distributor also decrease at the same time. In the past, all the IVD players in China could use increased volumes to offset the price down. But at this moment, government also released a lot of policies, maybe DRG, DIP, payment reform, test result, mutual recognition across the hospitals, and bundling of test panels to make both price and volume down together. During the promotion process, the traditional relationship lead sales will be not effective anymore. The new purchase behavior from hospitals become transparent, which means the promotion process gets slow and slow. For most of IVDSs, these three pressures are mixed together. You cannot offset one with the other two. And there are three, and it also have two pending policies. It's still may be at hand. The first one is the price item guideline for laboratory test service. And the second one is government also would like to standardize reimbursement across the different province. So regarding the first policies, if your product or your item have been not included in this guideline, which means it's harder for you for any further promotions in the China future. And at the second one, we're highly concerned what kind of price could be as a standard by the government. We worry about maybe the government use some the low price province, such as Zhejiang province, as the new standards to adjust it national maybe reimbursement price. Unfortunately, I assume maybe the policy A will be released in the Q3 in this year. Maybe at the end of this year, we will have a very clear pictures for the further next 3 or 4 years about the China IVD marketing. At this moment, China government do two things at the same times. Currently, they comprise some the product with the Me Too technologies, low difference routine IVD assays, unnecessary volumes, and in-rental price. At the same time, they are always encourage some innovations with the real clinical value product, urgent unmet clinical needs. So currently, China is redirect values for the IVD industry. At the part two, I also would like to discuss with all the peoples about where the open still are available. So I would like to emphasize again, the China government is to do two things at the same times. On the track A, China government is cutting the price and control the volumes by release a lot of policies, maybe for DRG, DIP, and the test results mutual recognition across the hospitals. But at the same time, China government also working on the track B to accelerate for some novel product and also to set some special area for some the novel pharma product also to simplify the registration process. But most of the peoples in the last only pay attention for the trick A. I advise you can combine for both trick A and trick B, and then you will generate more clear pictures. So firstly, I also would like to summarize some of the policies from the government about IVD for the support innovative IVD product for the registrations. We can check Article 67 from IVD registration guideline. If your product with the truly first-in-class principle or design, you can apply for to be considered as the innovative IVD product. If you have been recognized, which means your product not only to get a simplified registration process, but also will be encouraged by the commercialized process in the future, and the government encourage the hospital to purchase more for the innovative IVD product. At the same time, if your product associates with the rare disease diagnostics, cancer diagnostic, early specific disease diagnostic, and other areas, you can also to check Article 7.2 for IVD registration guideline. You can be applied for the priority registration process, which can save the registration time. And I also checked the 2025 medical device registration work report. So in this report, it emphasizes several points. The first point, 7 flu A and flu B self-test assays have been approved by the local authorities. 8 rare disease diagnostic assays have been also approved, which means China government encourages several the point for some the self-testings and rare disease diagnostic. I also do a summaries about maybe 10 product, 10 innovative product have been approved from January 2023 to December 2025. All of them total 10 product, always with the first-in-class technology, or have very clear clinical applications for some specific disease diagnostic. I also need to emphasize one point. There are 3 products is manufactured by the foreign people, which means the innovative IVD registration process and not close the door for foreign people. All the companies, not only local companies, but also foreign companies also have a chance to apply to be considered as the innovative IVD product. And I also summarize, all the product in the 2025 have been put into the priority registration pathway, and most of them have already been approved by the NMPA so far. So according to some public data, the annual inspection period is around 200 to 300 days, and which means it's dramatically shorter than the routine the pathways. But they always have very clear the application field. You need also to check whether your product whether can use in this application field. In the Hainan province, China found a special area named Boao Lecheng. In this area, China have a very special policies for some product, a foreign product with the below characters have already launched outside China, have not registered in China, and China don't have the equivalent device. If you fulfill these 3 characters, you can apply in the Boao centers for the clinical use in some specific hospitals. I also need to tell you, this is not a registration bypass. It's just a fast way to start some commercials in the China. And I also summarize for the IVD assays approved in the Boao for the certain clinical use. You can check the assays from several different foreign companies. Also associated with maybe tumor diagnostic, cardiovascular diagnostic, and some other clinical applications. It's very similar with the policies encouraged by the China government. And according to a last several page, you need to check what the field China government encourage and what kind of product for the foreign companies can offer. Secondly, China government always encourage the hospitals to do some own R&D. HDT means hospital developed test. They encourage hospital to develop some reagents to fulfill some the clinical needs and for some clinical translations. Currently, there are more than 40 hospitals. The very top hospitals in China across 10 provinces to become the pilot site for this project. There are around 100 HDD project is under the pipeline for the approval. There are more than 10 projects have been approved as the HDD assays could be used in the some single hospitals. The total procedures could be separated as maybe 6 steps. First step, hospitals start R&D for some assays and then find manufacturers for the contract manufacturer to finalize the production process. And then hospital purchase IC back to do the clinical use to provide a diagnostic service for the patient, but only in this hospital. During this period, the hospital could accumulate the real-world data and start applications for the formal IVD product. Finally, if the product have been approved and the hospital can sell the IC all over China. Currently, they have one ICs from the Union hospitals. It's a very top hospital in China, have already been recognized as the IVD product. This information give reminders for all the foreign companies. If you have some good platform or some very low parameters, you can cooperate with the top hospital in China to find a separate commercialized pathway. The registration process is continue to be simplified. At the end of April, NMPA to release a new draft versions for the catalog of IVD regions for the clinical trial free. If the draft versions transfer for the final versions, it cover around 573 class 2 and class IVD. As we know, the major investment for the China registration is for the clinical trial. If your ICs is not necessary to conduct the clinical trial anymore, which means you can save a lot of the monies to enter the marketings, which is a very good news for some the foreign companies have the Me Too product, but he plan to enter the China market. And the contract manufacturer policies is become very, very mutual policies and is no longer as the gray zones in the China, which means for the foreign companies, you can have another options for light aside localization options. But the contract manufacturer is not transfer responsibilities for your partners. The license holder remain fulfill the whole responsibilities for the product quality. And can also to give you a very successful case. Often companies cooperate with a very reliable CDMO partners have been approved 3 local certificates. 2 certificates for the local calculation analyzers, 1 certificate for the local blood gas analyzers, which means it's not only policies, it's also about a practical experience for for foreign companies. In the third part, I also would like to talk with you what overseas companies should do in the China. First step, we need to identify the suitable marketings for you. According to analysis, some policies launched by the China government, this 7 part, I think, is encouraged by the China government. And if you have the similar product, please feel free to enter the China as soon as possible. But I also would like to share a very key message to you. And if your product is easier replaceable, maybe China is not for your target market anymore. And I also want to clarify some other the potential marketings for the IVD ICs. In the last couple of years, and China hospital marketings to avoid a lot of pressures from insurance payment. But we still have several other the segment, such as maybe CTC marketing, blood station marketings, and also some public security system marketings. They don't have any pressures from the basic insurance of the government. But I also needed to tell you the volumes of this size is very small. They cannot compare with the very huge marketing size in the hospitals. But I assume it can also provide alternative options for the foreign companies to explore new possibilities in the China. And they usually have 3 very common the China business operation models. For some small companies, they usually rely on the distributors. They usually cite 1 person in charge of China as country managers, or China is only one of the regions for some salespeople. Most of work, such as registrations, marketing, sales, and service, is rely on the distributors. During these times, its models become is not as friendly as in the past. And most of medium-sized European companies to prefer to set a small office with a team less than maybe 10 people, take over registrations, branding, marketing, and leave the sales, technical service, and the logistics to their partners. And for some huge companies, such as Roche, they focus on do the localizations in China. They also establish their local production site. At this moment, I assume most of foreign companies should reconsider about what is your right business operation models in China at this moment. Currently, more and more topic is also about localizations. Currently, localization is very, very important for more and more foreign companies. There are maybe four major reasons. The first reason is government leader procurement prefers the local product. I assume it's not the situation in China. It's also occur in the most of countries. The local government only prefer the product by the local manufacturers. And the second reason is local registrations is shorter and cheaper than the import registrations. And if the companies is from European or United States, the local manufacturer in China can also decrease the manufacturer cost. The last reason is China customers usually have some very different or personally demands for the product. If you also have an office in China, it's easier for you to switch or optimize your product to fulfill China local requirement. There are two common localization pathway. In the past, most of the localization activities is rely on the joint venture companies. The preconditions for joint venture companies, you need to find a very reliable local partners, and you have very strong mutual trust between the foreign companies and the local suppliers. Otherwise, it means high risk for the foreigner companies. With the development of the MAH policies, MH appear to good options for the foreign peoples. Foreign companies can only to set a small R&D centers to take over the know-how and some of the core technology and transfer all the remaining production process to a local CDMO partner, which means it's fast for entering the marketings and also to save a lot of very huge investment. And with the strong competitions in China, the qualifications of China business partner become important and important. I also summarize five characters for qualified China business partners. In the past, the business in China is very simple. Find the right distributors, the manufacturer only in charge of productions, and your distributor in China focus on the sales. But at this moment, you need to find qualified China partners with a comprehensive ability, not only a sales agencies. The companies also need to have their own registration teams and are very familiar with the NMP regulations. And they also need to have the sales and the service team cover all of the China's, also with strong academic educations and the academic promotion abilities. If they also have the MOH abilities, I think it's also best for these partners in China. And currently, if your business partner is a little weak, I advise you can to make decisions to switch and find a new good partners. The weak partners will make your business small and small in China. In the part 4, I also would like to use short minutes to explain why Annual Road could be your useful partners in the China. Annual Road established in 2012 is the leading NGS companies in the China, and we have more than 40 years company operations, research development, registration, and production. And we have more than 600 employees in China, which means we have very strong sales marketing and service team cover all of the China, and we also have very good the quality systems and passed by the ISO 13485, which means we also have the abilities to become your MH partners in the China. So I also would like to leave for the message as the take-home message. China is still very large, but firstly, you need to have the right product. Secondly, you need to identify the right pathway, how to launch or how to finalize the registration in the China. And then you also need to have very right the localizations or business models right. Finally, you need to have a right business partner to support you become successful in China. Maybe the last questions to leave all the participants today. Firstly, let's discuss whether you have the right product in the China. If the answer is yes, and then you can talk about how to enter the China. And this is the last page. If you are interested to contact with Anno Road for any the business discussions or business development, please contact us via the contact informations in this slides. And we are very pleasure to continue discussion with you. How can we get successful together in the China? And thanks for your attention. Thank you very much.